It is very rare for us to have such an occasion to go deeply, think deeply, and adequately about everything. Most of us, life is very superficial. Very rushy, very pushy, very busy. We rarely stop to look, to observe. Most of us are rather lazy, not only physically, but also psychologically. We always follow, we always conform, imitate, because that's easy, isn't it? Just follow the mass. But we are lost, totally lost in this world, so confused about everything. Politically, there are numerous talks, conversations, debate in front of the camera. These people keep talking, but solves nothing. If you look carefully, observe all this, nothing is really solved. A new law, a new rule, a new regulation is superimposed over the old ones. And more and more rules, more and more laws, more and more regulations. Economically, there are numerous issues. Which exist in the every day's life. Personally, the issues are endless. The suffering in all kinds of forms, agony, travail, conflict, contradiction, total confusion. And we tend to treat those issues separately. Oh, these are political issues. Oh, these are economic issues. Oh, these are my personal issues. Why are we so superficial? When one is really serious is looking at this river of life, it is full of trouble. Now we can categorize the trouble into different types, but we don't really solve them. Because we don't go deep. We are too lazy to look, to observe, to go deeply, to see what is the root of all the issues. Not one or two particular issues, but all the issues. In face of the issues, most of us are escaping. Aren't we? We escape in all kinds of forms, into all kinds of theories, philosophies, all kinds of religions, all kinds of pleasure-seeking activities. This world offers a network of escapes. It's easy, isn't it? It's convenient. Life is convenient. Therefore, it is full of trouble, isn't it? In that escape, we keep creating more and more issues. And we need to stop to look. Madame says, life is in trouble. We need to look, inquire, observe, to find out whether it is possible to free of all the issues. It is not your life, not my life. That's only life. But when the mind treats life as yours, his, mine, we get lost. We get trapped in those particular issues we think that belong to ourselves. But is that really so? So in this series of talks, let's go through a series of fundamental questions about our living and existence to see whether it is possible for the mind to see the root, to see the light. The work, the job is on you, not on the speaker. If you really give all your energy into this to find out what the speaker says is not important at all. To solve all those issues, you have to be the light to yourself. You must see the light. And this demands your diligence. No longer lazy, psychologically. And tremendous observation. There are so many things to go over because our life has become so complicated. We have lost the sense of simplicity. The mind has been trapped in numerous patterns. And those patterns perpetuate all the issues, troubles. So can the mind clear the pattern completely? Please don't answer it now. If you answer it yes or no, it has no meaning. Because you haven't done anything yet to inquire. Just verbally say yes or no. Only block one. Go further. So can we stay open, stay unknown, to go into this, to inquire, to find out whether it is possible to free of all the patterns? Here, in this occasion, the speaker is speaking something. But to you, how do you listen to it? How do you receive the message? First of all, please don't agree or disagree, because that's no meaning at all. Agree or disagree is something verbal, but we are looking at something together, something non-verbal. We all need to look, not agree or disagree. Look at these people talking all the time in different occasions, arguing, chattering, agreeing or disagreeing. Everything becomes rather verbal and therefore superficial. So in this occasion, can we not agree or disagree? Just observe. Maybe what the speaker says is pure nonsense. Find out whether it is so or not. Perhaps what the speaker says is absolutely right. Find out for yourself. We need to question everything. Everything this society has imposed on us. And this requires seriousness. When most people hear this word serious, they easily associate that word with the grim face. Somebody can look serious, but that's irrelevant. I mean, the attitude. We can still smile. That's not an issue at all. But can the attitude be serious, be earnest, and eager to find out what is true, what is false? Most of us are not serious at all, right? We tend to flow with the society. Seek all kinds of pleasure. We don't really treat life seriously. But a real happy life, a real joyful life is very serious. It sounds absurd, but it is so. The joy of living comes from this very serious attitude towards living. But most of us are only interested in pleasure, seeking pleasure in all kinds of ways, all kinds of forms. But everybody craves happiness. What a contradiction. So hopefully, in those talks in the next few weeks, we can see something together. We can see the same thing together. It is rare, isn't it, in our life? Most of us are trapped in all kinds of illusions. We don't see the same thing at all. Life becomes more and more isolated because everyone is chasing their own dream, their own illusions. To see the same thing together implies that there must be true communication. Communicate. Are we communicating now? What is communication? We use this word in many occasions, but we never go into it. What is communication? Communication is never one-sided. It is always requires both sides. To give full attention to it. Isn't it? Just like now, the speaker is speaking. Can the communication take place? Which means that you also need to do some work now to let this communication take place. Which means that everybody here must give full attention to what is being said, not to get trapped in the verse. In our life, all the misunderstandings come from this failure of communication. The mind is trapped in the verse, the reaction to the verse. And then the mind is lost in his own meaning, his own interpretation of that word. Now, while you are listening, can you observe your reaction to the verse? Because we are talking something very deep. You need to observe yourself while listening. And at the same time, you pay attention to the verse to see your reaction to the verse, to make sure the mind is not trapped in the reactions. And only then, hopefully, you are doing now together, we can really communicate something. Those non-verbal things. As we said earlier, don't agree or disagree is also the same reason. Because agree or disagree is the reaction to the verse. But when you really observe yourself, nothing to agree or disagree, isn't it? So, communication means listening attentively. Give attention to the issues. But what is attention? Most of us don't know how to listen, how to give attention. We always listen through our own interpretation of the verse, through the image we hold. Therefore, we always translate what is being said according to our own experience, knowledge. So you see, the message is always filtered or twisted by this screen. And that's not listening at all. Obvious. Because as long as we listen in that way, we always re-enhance the opinions, the experience we have. To listen demands the mind is in full attention. To be aware, the opinions, the viewpoint, the image that is functioning as a filter. So, to not let the message twisted or distorted by that filter. So this awareness, this full attention, is the key for our communication and also this living. So can we exercise, quoted exercise, this attention through those talks. To give full attention means that you must put aside all your issues now. If you come with your issues to these talks, you can't listen. Can you? Because you always want to solve your issues. Therefore, you can't really listen and observe. That's a trap. Perhaps that's the real issues. We think we know the issues, but actually, when we focus on those issues, the particular issues belong to me, belong to you. Perhaps that's the real issues. So let's find out whether this is the case or not. So to attend these talks, can you put aside everything now? All your troubles, all your trivials, problems, can you set aside? To allow the attention to happen. You may find a little challenging. But do it. Experiment with it. For most of us, in this living, the so-called living, the mind is always concentrating. This whole society, this monstrous society, demands your concentration. In every way, isn't it? Concentrate on this, on that. Then we have all kinds of specialization, all kinds of divisions of the society comes from this concentration. And concentration becomes such a strong habit. But have you ever noticed that? Concentration implies effort. For most people, they may feel natural, quoted natural, to concentrate. But that's a habit. That's a pattern. The mind is making efforts. Do you see the note? Concentration implies effort. But this whole society is conditioned to effort. You need to achieve this. You need to be that. You need to seek fulfillment. In your ambitions, your dreams. You see, all those things implies concentration, also effort. As long as the mind is making efforts, the mind is stretched, therefore stressed. This is a hard fact. But do you see it or not? And another point, please listen carefully. We must pay close attention to this. As long as the mind is making effort, the mind is into illusion. As long as the mind is seeking, the mind is into illusion. And look at this society. And people are conforming to this mental construct of the society, to concentrate, to make effort, to be, to become, to seek power, seek dominance, seek all kinds of self-fulfillment. What's the result? Everyone is trapped into illusions. And everyone is trapped in its unique illusions. And naturally, we are all isolated, divided, because everybody defends their own illusion. And this is what is taking place at each moment in this world. Not only in Dutch society. Of course, this society is very extreme, but it's everywhere. When one is really serious about this living, one will inevitably ask, is that possible to live a life without illusions? Is that possible to live a life freely? Obviously, when the mind is in illusions, it is not free. As we are going through in the society, when the mind is trapped in illusions, the mind becomes very hungry because it is so isolated. Craving relief. And all kinds of pleasure-seeking activities come into play in the hope of relieving this. But it's another trap. We will go into that in the next few talks. Only re-enhance the isolation. So it is possible to live a life without illusions, which means that it's possible to live a life without making any effort. without concentrating on something. Which also means that kind of life exists in full attention. And we need to go into it to see whether it is possible. Never say yes, never say no, because it has no meaning at all. So can we stop seeking now? When you are really observing, listening attentively, there's nothing to seek. Isn't it? Communication can only take place when there's no effort at all. Which means that both sides must make no efforts. Then that's communication. But if you don't want to make effort, if you don't want to make new efforts, mean that you are waiting to be told. Actually, you are making efforts. Because the mind is contemplating, it's translating, and I need to convince you. And I also need to make efforts. Do you see the point here? If you are waiting to be told, to be explained, then I need to make efforts to explain, to convince. And then we can't communicate. Because both us are making efforts, and both us are in illusions. I look at this society, this hierarchy society, with all kinds of authorities. You are seeking approval. You are making efforts. And those people who assume to be the authorities are approving you. They are also making efforts. So there's no communication at all. Look at these bad behaviors of all kinds of authorities in the society, from the legal system to all kinds of other, the so-called authorities. All which demand your efforts to seek approval, to prove. Demands your effort. But when you make effort, you are into illusion. Do you see this contradiction here? Not only these outward the authorities, we have numerous psychological authorities. There are so many books, so many gurus, so many religious leaders, and all kinds of celebrities, and all kinds of opinion makers. We are all being influenced by them, aren't we? Why the media? Why the propaganda? Why the newspaper? Why the internet? Have you ever noticed that this mind is being dominated by all kinds of authorities, and we depend on them? Therefore, we are lazy. We stop inquiring and looking. But we are all people. Those people who assume authorities is as fearful as we are. Those people also have numerous issues, troubles. Can we negate any authority psychologically? So we can observe, learn freely. Not living in the shadow of them. This requires diligence to look, to see. Seeing is believing, isn't it? But for most of us, believing is seeing. So, Madam says, why do you believe? If you haven't seen it, why do you believe it? Seeing requires attention, to observe, to question, to doubt properly. The mind doesn't accept or deny, just observe and look. When the mind negates all those authorities, the mind stands alone. Which means that can one live a life without any psychological dependence? Physically, we do depend, right? Food, shelter, clothes, nutrition, and all the necessities. But psychologically, can one not depend? Why do we depend psychologically? For what? For a sense of confirmation, for a sense of certainty, for a sense of security, isn't it? But it is an illusion, isn't it? Because when you depend, you never get security. Life is always turbulent. Test it. When you have no dependence at all mentally, what is it like? When you are depending, you never get that security at all. Life is always turbulent. It might give you a sense of security temporarily from a theory, from a book, temporarily. But life is always changing. Life is never static. And you refuse. You want to be something fixed, something permanent. So you always want to depend on something for a sense of permanency. But the real life is always in dynamic. You see, the illusion is blocking you from seeing the fact. Life is in dynamics. Life is always changing. Can I stay with that? Which means that, can I depend on nothing mentally? Look at this society. We have absolute physical security, don't we? Food, very good food. And everybody has a house, has a shelter to live in. So physically, we are 100% secure. But this creates such a strong demand for psychological security. We want to be secure psychologically. And we are always chasing that illusion. We get frustrated. We get dismayed, disturbed, even in despair. But when you seek nothing, which means that when you make no efforts at all, just like now, I hope you are doing that, make no efforts now. Do you still crave security? Just look at ourselves now. When the mind has no efforts whatsoever, the mind feels secure. It does not even think about security at all because it is secure. But when the mind is seeking, it's chasing, it's pursuing, it's craving. The mind wants security. Do you get the point here? There are very subtle differences. This moment, you are listening without any efforts because you are observing. You don't think about security at all because you feel secure. Obviously. But when you begin to seek something, I want to be this, I want to have that, the mind becomes uncertain and demands security. And we don't want to stop seeking. That's the issue. And we want to be that. At the same time, we also want security. Look at ourselves, how greedy we are. We want everything. but it's an illusion. It's just an illusion. Now it is the speaker's statement, but can you see that it is an illusion? That's different matter, which is more important than this speaker's statement. Can the mind see the fact that it is an illusion to pursue the security? When the mind doesn't pursue, the mind feels secure. So can the mind see that? This requires your diligence and observation to see this fact. But Madame says, this society demands your seeking, your effort. That's the challenge, isn't it? This whole society keeps pushing you to be something, to become something, to seek a power, to seek a fulfillment, to seek all kinds of dominance, to seek pleasure. And most people choose to conform to it because that's easier. But can you stop? Can you stop conforming? Go into it. Apply it to your life to see what actually taking place. You may feel, oh yeah, if I don't conform, I will feel terrible. That's your thinking. Apply it and see what actually taking place. So come to this point, we have to inquire into this question. What is society? Is society something external? Probably that's most people's thinking, isn't it? Oh, I'm here. The society is everywhere. That's the society. Is that really so? What is society? Society consists of everyone, isn't it? Your thinking, your behavior is a part of this society. This mental construct of the society is running in your head. So you behave according to that pattern. You speak Dutch or any other language. And that pattern is dominating you. So this society is a mental construct running in the head. But you are always imagining that society is something external. That's another illusion. The speaker is pointing out this issue. Because you are the society. You are no different from the society at all. To stop conforming, to stop imitating, means that can you empty this mental construct? So you can be an outsider of this society. You may still work in the office, but can the mind be free of this mental construct? Then you are free from society. Else, you may want to escape into a forest in other country, but you still carry that society to that forest. In other words, that forest is still occupied by the society. So can one empty everything from here? Because we are the society. We are no different from the society. But when we think that society is something external, we create a division. And that division blocks us from seeing the truth. We always rely on other people to improve the society. But, sir, madams, you see, this society becomes more and more degenerate. Because we don't see that we are the society. So can we not conform, not imitate? I know there are so many pressures from different people, isn't it? They also want you to conform. Can you resist to that? Can you not conform or imitate? And this requires a lot of work to go into it, to stand, to withstand the turbulence temporarily. But for most of us, we crave comfort. We crave harmony, the quoted harmony. We don't want to break up that. But when we are doing that together, we are all making efforts to maintain this superficial decency, which is so vulnerable. And we all suffer. And we are all in illusions. And we are becoming so superficial, don't we? Going into this, apply what you find to your life. That's the meditation. Meditation is never divorced from the daily living. We must deal with it. Not to escape into something else. The issue is still here. When we come back, oh, you are still here. Deal with the issue means that we don't escape. We don't follow. We don't imitate, conform. We look, observe, learn, take actions. And only then we can be a human. Being a human is the solution to all the issues. Don't ask how to be a human. There's no path to be a human, but being a human is the path